Right-wing Republicans on Tuesday said they vehemently oppose a bipartisan deal to raise the US debt ceiling before the United States potentially runs out of money to pay its bills. At a news conference on Capitol Hill, members of the House Freedom Caucus called on fellow Republicans to reject the plan hammered out by President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy because they said it does too little to cut spending in exchange for suspending the nation's $31.4 trillion borrowing limit. The Speaker himself has said on numerous occasions, "The greatest threat is our debt," said Freedom Caucus Chairman Representative Scott Perry.
The Speaker himself has said on numerous occasions, the greatest threat to America is our debt, and now is the time to act. We had the time to act. And this deal fails completely. And that's why these members and others will be absolutely opposed to the deal, and we will do everything in our power to stop it and end it now.
Both Biden and McCarthy have predicted they will get enough votes to pass it into law before June 5, when the US Treasury Department says it will not have enough money to cover its obligations. "Let's call their bluff on it," said Representative Rolf Norman, another caucus member. "The best deal is no deal."
Folks, it's time to go back to the drawing table. It's time for us to say no. And look, I don't buy Janet Yellen's "the sky's falling." She's moved the X date 3 times. June 1st, now it's June 5th, and I hear it's June 8th. What gives? Tax revenues are going to be coming in. We're not going to default. We're going to choose. They're going to say this. Let's call their bluff on it. The best deal is no deal.
Norman is the one of 3 conservatives on the 13-member House Rules Committee who could potentially torpedo the bill before it even reaches the House floor. But a successful vote there would set up a vote by the full House on Wednesday evening. The bill would suspend the US debt limit through January 1, 2025, allowing Biden and lawmakers to set aside the politically risky issue until after the November 2024 presidential election.
If you're out there watching this, every one of my colleagues, be very clear, not one Republican should vote for this deal. It is a bad deal. No one sent us here to borrow an additional $4 trillion to get absolutely nothing in return. But at best, if I'm being really generous, a spending freeze for a couple of years. That's it. That's about what you get. And frankly, you're going to make things worse, and my Democratic colleagues know it.
It would also cap some government spending over the next 2 years, speed up the permitting process for some energy projects, claw back unused COVID-19 funds, and introduce work requirements for food aid programs for some poor Americans, a provision that infuriated some progressive Democrats in Congress. Biden can point to gains as well. The deal leaves his signature infrastructure and green energy laws largely intact, and the spending cuts and work requirements are far less than Republicans had pushed for. Hardline Republicans have argued that steeper spending cuts are necessary to curb the growth of the national debt, which is roughly now equal to the annual output of the economy.
We had a real opportunity to significantly cut federal spending, restore some fiscal sanity to Washington, D.C., and get our economy back on track. Unfortunately, the bill we are considering tomorrow does none of these things and is more Washington gimmicks from the swamp that kicks the proverbial can down the road. Tomorrow's bill hands Biden a blank check, as it doesn't actually set a debt limit.
If it passes the House, a Senate vote could possibly stretch into the weekend if lawmakers in that chamber try to slow its passage. At least one Senator, Mike Lee, has said he may try to do so. Most of the savings would come by capping spending on domestic programs like housing, border control, scientific research, and other forms of discretionary spending. Military spending would be allowed to increase over the next 2 years.
The Republicans in Congress have been saying for months that we need to get back to pre-COVID spending levels. This bill canonizes post-COVID spending levels brought to us by Joe Biden and the Democrats. This bill keeps all of Joe Biden's policy, all of Joe Biden's spending intact.
The debt ceiling standoff prompted ratings agencies to warn they might downgrade US debt, which underpins the global financial system.
Thank you all. It's been great to see you.
Markets have reacted positively to the agreement so far.